Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit that subscribe button if you're new so you don't miss any of our great football content this season. All right, I'm a football fan for a long time, since the 70s. I don't watch football without something to eat and drink. Trust me, it's a whole different ball game when you're eating. Right now, got two things today from Uber Eats. Right now, when you buy one large extra most bestest pepperoni pizza from Little Caesars, like this one, you get another one free. By the way, one of these has already been eaten by me and my wife 15 minutes ago. Yes, that's right. An extra most bestest pizza thrown in there. Extra cheese, extra pepperoni, all for the price of just one. And since Uber Eats is the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL, you know the game deals, all the game day deals. Keep coming all season long. Wings and tacos and subs and pizzas, chips and dips, whatever it is. Uber Eats delivers right to your door. So when your team puts up the extra point, reward yourself with an extra pizza. Order Little Caesars on Uber Eats today. We did. Terms apply. See the app for details. Pizza, extra. Something's going on here. All right, time for our Sunday night podcast with John Middlekauff, host of 3 and Out, former NFL scout. I had a 4-0 day in the Blazing Five. I have Washington tomorrow, which I feel great about. That was my favorite pick of the week. It's been established the Jets may have the worst coach I've ever seen, and Tennessee may have the worst personnel I've ever seen. But let's start. Tampa Bay 30, San Francisco 19. Right now, Baker Mayfield, think about this. They average 7.3 yards a play. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. Ibuka gets hurt. No Bucky Irving. The leading pass catcher was Cade Otton, who, by the way, is a nice tight end out of Washington. Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson. Tez had a great catch. I mean, I think Baker has to be your MVP at this point. I mean, he had a magical, emotional, magical scramble for a first down. I mean, listen, San Francisco's all beat up, but I mean, Tampa's going to Seattle and winning. Tampa's in the Bay and winning. I think they're as good as anybody in the league right now, and I think Baker's my MVP.
Yeah, to me, I mean, their ceiling rests on those guys being healthy, because if they are healthy, they'd have a chance to beat anybody because their offense,
Yeah.
I mean, how potent it will be with those 3 wide receivers. Pretty incredible story. I mean, the Cleveland Browns, who have that long history of having a million quarterbacks, finally get a guy and draft him number 1 overall. And John Dorsey was right, but it didn't quite look right immediately. And now he's fulfilling, like, I'm the number 1 overall quarterback. The Favrean qualities, the moxie, the passes. Colin, last year it was like, Baker Mayfield's a really good player. This guy's like a top 10 quarterback. To right now, he's one of the best players in the league. Like, MVP or not, I mean, he's just on a weekly basis one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
And for a smaller quarterback, he's an excellent pocket passer. Feels like
Great.
he has no trouble seeing. I don't know
Yeah.
if he finds angles. Maybe it's just some instinctive quality that he has. I mean, Purdy, who didn't play today, another smaller quarterback, struggles a little bit, throw over the middle of the field. Obviously, Baker's arm strength, yeah, he's just playing at an elite level. I mean, he's 25-1, Colin, to start the season. And I looked before this, I think like Thursday or Friday, he was down to 8-1. I would imagine he will continue to rise up into the Josh Allen category as the season goes.
So when I picked the Niners, despite an easier than average schedule to finish second or third in their division, I said, I'll take the Rams and the Seahawks to win the division. I said, I love the coach. Purdy's good enough. This is an old, brittle roster. You looked it up today. How much money is not playing right now due to injury?
Well, they gave 3 contracts this offseason. Brock Purdy, in guaranteed money, got $180 million. He's played 2 games and is injured now, and who knows when he's coming back. They gave Fred Warner and George Kittle a combined $96 million, so a total of $277 million. And obviously Fred Warner today shatters his ankle. Kittle has been out since early on in that first game, and Purdy, again, if you told me over-under right now, does he play 5 games this season, I'd probably take the under. So they gave $277 million to, 2 Hall of Famers in Warner and Kittle, and their starting quarterback, and none of it, like, you just can't overcome that, Colin. And that's not even counting, Nick Bosa, who, when he's healthy and playing like he was this season, one of the best players in the league, who's gone. So it's like, Ayuk's nowhere to be found. Ricky Pearsall, who looked excellent early in this season, is just gone, injured knee. Like I've never seen anything like this on a weekly basis. The constant just guys' careers are altered. Not like, hey,
Yeah.
he rolled an ankle or dinged an elbow. It's like, no, his career is altered. It's it's almost unfathomable because now we have a history, right? 7 of the last 8 years, they have been one of, if not the most injured team in the league. And you look around the league and you go a bunch of injuries, and Fred Warner had nothing to do with like training or whatever. Someone falls on his ankle from behind, but the amount and the amount of money they've invested in it's one thing when it's kind of random, guys. It's critical, elite Hall of Fame guys that set
Yeah.
the contract standard at their position. What are you supposed to do? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where they've missed on just enough draft picks, and they've hit on several. Ricky Pearsall, when healthy, is really good. Again, their receiving core over the last 3 years, it's never healthy. I mean, just ever. But I mean, I'll give the Niners credit. Tampa's a really good team, and they shouldn't, with Mac Jones, be this close. And it was a very, very close game throughout. It was one of those games where I felt like Tampa was the better team. Just they were healthier. When Ibuka went out, and I'm thinking, Jesus, they don't have anybody to work with, and it's 7.5 yards of play. So I think, and I also think, Baker will say I'm the same guy I've always been, but all of us are human. All of us learn from, he was pissed when Cleveland got rid of him. He didn't like the way, I mean, not just Cleveland, but Carolina, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then, I mean, LA had Stafford, but I mean, you start looking around, he got kicked to the curb multiple times, like Mac Jones similarly, but I think we all know Baker's got more talent than Mac, but it's one of those things where, it's when you lost your radio job, you're not a bitter person, but that stuff. I mean, the Dallas Carolina game today. What were they calling that game? That was the Rico Dowdle revenge game. He was a monster. I think professional athletes are like attorneys or in any profession that deals in conflict. That shit is jet fuel for Baker. I don't think there's any question it's helped.
And I'm totally with you. Like his comments, they used to call me cocky, abrasive, and now they say moxie and dog. Well, Baker, you're a way better player now, and two, you definitely feel a little more calm, and also you're out of a chaotic situation. Like there are a lot of different factors. But I'm with you. I mean, I think any human worth their salt uses motivation, and as you mature, you don't let it show as much. And I think that's a good example with Baker. He was cut from, if I remember correctly, in the middle of the season after he was benched by the Panthers. That's how he ended up on the Rams on that Thursday night game. So I just think that, one, Baker's always had the arm strength. And when you watched him at Oklahoma, he was not a one-year wonder. 3 years dominated. And by the time he left, they were going toe-to-toe, remember, with the Georgia team in the Rose Bowl. They easily could have won that game. I thought he was an elite prospect. I thought he was like a more mobile Drew Brees. But, part of the reason Dorsey liked him was like the bravado, the kind of the Favrean, I don't know, it's not fake confidence, but just belief of like, I'm just going to pull this out, even though sometimes you won't. And it shows much better when you're playing well. And he, in Cleveland, I mean, it's pretty clear no one overcomes that. That place, you see the list, they're paying like 9 quarterbacks right now. Like that's just, I know they got 2 Ivy League guys running it, but they are the joke of the league in terms of,
think about this.
These 2 Ivy League guys that constantly lose. They can't find a quarterback. Like I'm watching Kyle and Robert Saleh with nobody compete.
Well, I mean, you and I were talking about this before we went on. Russell Wilson gets coordinators fired. Baker Mayfield has gotten back-to-back coordinators head jobs. Like he is a guy that you can pretty much, he's super smart. I've been told at the whiteboard he's brilliant. You can pretty much, Baker will have that playbook down in about 6 practices, and you can like Andrew Luck, you can give him any play. I mean, he could walk. I mean, Joe Flacco did it today. He was throwing a lot to Jamar Chase, but you give Joe Flacco 2 practices, and it's like, yeah, he was better than anybody else. Cincinnati could throw out there. He was good enough, made the game competitive. So I think Baker would be my MVP right now. And Chris Godwin's been hurt a lot. Mike Evans has been dinged up a lot. But when Ibuka got hurt, Bucky Irving's out. It was a pretty stellar performance. Now, it was because of these double headers on Monday, which I can't stand in the NFL. They mostly do everything right. I didn't even love the European games 5 or 6 years ago. Now I look forward to them. I love getting up in the morning and watch a European game. I really do. But I want to talk about this because I think the New York Jets may be the worst coach team I've ever seen. First of all, the organization is so bad. Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers looks good and competent and under control. With the Jets, he looked old and it was chaotic. He's the same guy. So and by the way, Pittsburgh over the last 8 years can't get offense right. But Aaron goes from the Jets to Pittsburgh, an offensively at times tone-deaf organization, and he looks really, really good. But I want to talk about the Jets. So Denver beats the Jets 13-11, and Denver played like crap. Bo Nix was awful in the second half. But you know what? Kansas City made a living last year out of playing poorly and winning. There is value in going overseas, playing poorly, and winning 13-11. I mean, they had a safety. They in the end zone. There's a holding. I mean, Denver did everything wrong, and it's why the NFL is so popular. Denver was so much better than the Jets and won 13-11. But at the end of the first half, the Jets, Aaron Glenn calls for a fake punt. They convert it, and the next play he runs the ball. Well, why would you take that risk and then not go into your 2-minute offense? I've never seen anything like it. Kurt Warner was incredulous. He and Eisen just were like laughing. And then at the end of the game, when Justin Fields was atrocious, and one thing we know Justin Fields does not see the field well, they have him going on deep drops when they can kick a 62-yard field goal or go to Tyrod Taylor in the second half at some point. Tyrod's a pro. Yeah. They don't go to Tyrod Taylor. They don't elect to kick the field goal. And on that last drive, it's deep drops listen, you need like 8 yards to get into field goal range. If you have to run, do whatever you have to do. But quick drops, tight end, a quick drag route, anything. I think the Jets are the worst coach team in the league, and I feel bad, but there are coaches, Rich Kotite, you're just overwhelmed. Freddie Kitchens, it's just too big of an assignment. My interpretation is the Jets can't do anything right. They are officially the worst franchise in the league, and I'm including Tennessee. Today's show brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The pennant's on the line. Lights are brighter than ever. One swing can change everything, and you can be part of every pitch at Hard Rock Bet. New customers can place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but also $150 in extra bonus bets. Plus, every day this week on Hard Rock Bet, you get a profit boost for a postseason baseball parlay. There's new promos every day. Boost your same-game parlay or same-game parlay max so your bet pays extra winnings. If you want to see what everybody else is betting on tonight, right, top picks or parlays across any sport, the Hard Rock Bet app literally shows you. It's another reason to download the app. Takes 90 seconds just for the info. Tap Discover, and you can see trending picks and parlays at any time. So download the Hard Rock Bet app. Make your first deposit.
Yeah, I mean, I would also include the GM. To me, it's a tandem deal. They give Sauce all that money. They kind of invest in the team. Justin Fields, to give $40 million over 2 years based on his resume, was insanity. I mean, some of these guys, the 49ers got Mac Jones for 2 years, $7 million. At no point in time during their career, Mac Jones dealt with Belichick, and not like in the prime Belichick, the Belichick we see now. Like, it's honestly, it's kind of a reflection of actually Mac's pretty impressive that he was able to overcome kind of that mess. Justin Fields can't play within the pocket. He has no feel. Now, the Jets' offensive line is also regressing. They were getting beaten all game long. So you factor in their offensive tackles couldn't block the edges. He has no feel for the pocket. I mean, they could have had 50 sacks a day. It felt like he was going to get sacked on every drop back. I'm with you, calling these long drop backs. But it gets back to investing in him in the first place. That's insanity. If anything, just take a deep breath. Hire, sign, same thing. A Gardner Minshew, just take it. But to give him 2 years and $30 million guaranteed, based on what? He got benched the previous year, which we could argue if he should have or not. But even before that, that was insane. I mean, this franchise, they feel a little, kind of like the Raiders 5, 6, 7 years ago. I mean, really, really rudderless. And the problem is their owner has unlimited money. They have a high-priced team. It's not like they have some young. I mean, they're paying Garrett Wilson a lot. They're paying Sauce Gardner a lot. They're paying Quinn Williams a lot. They've invested a lot of first-round picks in different guys and high picks. They've invested. It's not like their quarterback's cheap. I mean, they're a disaster. The Broncos got really lucky because Bo Nix. Now, listen, I do agree with you. It's hard to go overseas in general. The Broncos played the Eagles last week, and they took all their stuff with them and then flew to London right after. So they've been gone forever. But 3 completions in the second half for, a first-round pick, a bunch of, good wide receivers and a high-level offensive coordinator. And even Bo Nix said after the game, like, we got no rhythm. They got
That's
very
what I
lucky.
felt.
They're playing an inept team because they lose that game if they're just playing like the Saints.
Well, I was thinking about this. If we go back to the 2024 quarterback draft class, Jaden Daniels, number 1. Drake May has emerged as number 2.
He looks good.
Bo Nix today is 3. Caleb's on his heels at 4. I won't even count J.J. McCarthy. Penix is 5. I still think Penix has a chance to work, but I think Bo Nix, he's had some really bad halves. Not Philadelphia Eagles bad halves, but pretty bad halves. And I'll say this, between Mims and Franklin and Harvey and Evan Ingram had a big catch on a 4th down. Denver's got really nice personnel. I'll argue this all day long. I think the Broncos have a top 5 roster. Bowles at left tackle. They have real players. So I think it's. I mean, Bo was 19 of 30, 175 yards, a touchdown, no picks, runs very, very well. But he missed a couple of deep balls. He does not throw the deep ball particularly well. He's got an arm, but it feels like to me on the deep ball, he has no touch on the deep ball. He just lets it go. And maybe because he didn't throw a ton of them, he's a pretty good intermediate thrower. He's exceptional under 8 to 10 yards. He's very accurate. He just doesn't throw a good deep ball. And Sean Payton has receivers who can get open deep. So I think Sean Payton privately is frustrated.
How could he not be? I also think he's kind of caught because he should use his legs more. But Sean Payton, for the most part, became a superstar with a quarterback that never scrambled. So, part of this offense, timing, get rid of the ball. But there are plays where it's like, if the guy's not open, Bo, take off. You're a really good athlete. And the commentators, I would say, over the course of this season have been saying that. He's very, I would say, hesitant to run on spots. We don't need you running all the time, but just take off. He always wants to throw. And it's just hurting him. He's scrambling like backwards and to the side to keep plays alive with his arm. And from a throwing standpoint, it's just not really working out. Now, their defense, like you said, their team, their roster's fantastic. Their defense,
they don't have Greenlaw yet. Yeah, they don't have Greenlaw yet.
Hufanga might have saved the game with that pass breakup on the second to last pass by Fields. They're going to be a lock playoff team. They have one of the easiest schedules left. They are going to win. Honestly, they should win the division, especially based with the Chargers injuries. And, we're recording this before the Chiefs game. But they got no chance to make a real run in the playoffs. Their quarterback doesn't play better. Like college football in the NFL, once you get the best opponents playing the best opponents, your quarterback has to play well. If he doesn't, you lose. John Mateer bad, Bo Nix. That's where they got very lucky. To me, they lose this game. I think if they're playing like 30 other NFL teams. They just got, like you said, the worst coached, just the worst team in the league, whose offense is who's atrocious.
And Justin Fields isn't good, but I said this when he went to the Jets. He went from the Bears defensive coach, Steelers defensive coach, Jets defensive coach. He's not good enough to overcome bad coaching. In Pittsburgh, in a 6-game stretch, he was 4-2 and looked competent. It goes to show you, Pittsburgh, maybe inartistic. Pittsburgh wins a lot of games. And let's just talk about that because it's not a great game, but it's worthy of discussion. So Dylan Gabriel had to throw 52 times. Go look at the box score if you didn't watch the game. You can't have him. He threw for 220 yards. You can't have him throwing 52 times.
He was getting crushed all game, too. His tackles were getting beaten like a drum.
Yeah. But I said this, Pittsburgh beats the Browns 23-9. I went 4-0 in my picks. It's the one everybody said, you got to take that game. I just don't like division rivals and big spreads. But, let me defend Aaron Rodgers again. So far this season, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks, 69% completion percentage, 104 passer rating. He made a couple of throws today that were so Aaron, running right, throwing back left. He can get away with it. A throw in the end zone to, I think, Connor Hayward. Aaron has, like Baker Mayfield, in a way, it helps that Aaron doesn't have as much horsepower, John, because what Pittsburgh does have between, they have size. They're, Washington, they have big receivers, they have size, they have big targets, and with catching radiuses. And I think Aaron, they're a team that can do a lot of damage inside of 15 yards. And they also have guys that can break tackles. And I think Aaron's smart enough to see that. Like today was classic, 21 of 30, most of it underneath, a couple of back shoulder throws, one great throw in the end zone. I think Aaron, they averaged 5.8 yards a play. That, for Pittsburgh over the last 7 years, against an excellent defense in a division game, that's a lot. These Steelers, Browns, Ravens, Steelers games, you average 3.5, 4.5 yards a play. I don't want to buy into Pittsburgh, but it's hard not to, because I do think Aaron's intelligence and experience has sort of synthesized all these talented parts. They just felt like players the last 6 years. Now they feel like a real offense with a rhythm to me. Now it's time for this week's Redeem Team members, brought to you by Hulu's Chad Powers. This week it's King Miller, the amazing freshman walk-on running back for USC, 158 rushing yards in USC's win over Michigan. He became the first walk-on to score a touchdown for SC since 1994. Chad Powers is now streaming with new episodes Tuesdays on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Yeah, he definitely, feels a good cohesion with DK Metcalf. Has a touchdown in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
He's very comfortable throwing that go route to him, or just the kind of the over the shoulder ball in the end zone. They have, like you said, enormous tight ends. Cam Hayward's brother's big. The kid from Georgia is massive. He's like an offensive tackle that can run. Freiermuth is just a high-level tight end.
So they have 3 huge tight ends.
Yeah, the question mark is the running game. Will Gainwell now has kind of emerged. Like, they feel more comfortable using him. Caleb Johnson, they clearly don't really love, but have no choice. Warren was running guys over. The Cleveland Browns defense is pretty high level. Like, if they had a good offense, they would be one of the best teams in the league. Their defense is awesome. And as that game went, and this is part of football, right? You just kind of get worn out when you're a good defense and your offense stinks, and that's the case with Cleveland. But like the Steelers, early on, they're getting hit with haymakers. It's like, we'll stick this out. And Rodgers made a lot of throws. He doesn't move. It's pretty clear, like he once did. But he knows it, and like you said, he actually is more comfortable with his limitations and plays within himself. He's not, last year, it's like any player, any human being. As you age, you kind of have to change. I'm going through it right now with like my metabolism. Like, God, my metabolism at 40 is not the same as it was at 35. Welcome to life. It's like you're 41, Aaron. You tore your Achilles a couple of years ago. You can't scramble. So he moves a couple yards where he used to take off lateral to the line of scrimmage. He'll just kind of keep a play alive, but he's not looking for, he used to have he's like one of the great hero ball players of all time, because he could make something out of nothing into one of the most spectacular. Those days are done. But I think he kind of understands himself. And the other thing is their defense is starting to come on. Now, Cleveland's offensive line is pretty terrible. But as they get healthier up front.
Well, Jalen Ramsey.
Their defensive line. They had backup, the Herod guys making plays. Obviously, TJ Watts looked excellent the last 3 or 4 games. They were hitting hard today on defense. Well, early on, I was pretty nervous. I'm like, they got no chance. Here's the other thing, Colin. The AFC North, there's a chance all the other 3 coaches get fired. That's how bad it's going. Yeah. Stefanski's in major trouble. Zach Taylor's done. And Harbaugh, that thing's going to get louder and louder. They could have the division wrapped up by like early December. And they could be like an 11-win team and win this division by 4 games.
Listen, their schedule gets tougher late. But here's the thing. When you start watching players like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson had some decent moments in Pittsburgh. The Giants couldn't sit him fast enough. Brian Daboll's running to the tent to find Jackson Dart. Justin Fields was 4-2 with the Steelers. He's the worst quarterback in the league right now with the Jets. Like, here's the thing about Pittsburgh. They're not clever offensively. They're not San Francisco. They're not McVay, although the Rams are struggling. But you know what? They're so functional as an organization in terms of drafting and developing You and I have said this for years. They're going to win 9 games because it's a well-run operation. Tomlin can drive me crazy. They don't get offense. But then when you put a smart guy like Aaron in, and Arthur Smith is also bright, it's just good enough. Now, it wasn't against Seattle, and they played poorly in the second half against Seattle. They had that goofy special teams blunder. But you start watching I guess it's this, John. You said this 3 weeks ago. The bottom of this league is awful.
Yeah.
Tennessee is awful. I'm talking, the Saints they're fighting their butt off. New Orleans is fighting hard. That's a bad team. The Jets are absolutely awful. There are 4 or 5 teams at the bottom, and there's no great teams in this league, but you watch Pittsburgh, and just on health, Aaron, certain unity within the organization, they're going to win like 9 or 10 games. I don't think they're going to go 13, 14 wins. I don't, by the way, they do have some older players. Older players tend to get hurt around Thanksgiving. But I think Pittsburgh is going to be a playoff team. Again, they'll probably be a one-and-doner, but I think they'll be a playoff team.
Well, obviously last year their defense fell off a cliff, but also, the quarterback play with Russell, once it got really cold, he looked really, really bad. Old players, and Aaron's obviously a lot older than Russell. You go, well, I'm looking at their schedule now. Starting in about mid-November, they got home game against the Bengals. Could be cold in Pittsburgh. At the Bears, 11-23. Bills at home. At the Ravens. At the Browns. Versus the Ravens. These are a lot of games that could be snowing, could be 20 degrees.
Yeah.
And like you said, the bottom of the league is really crappy. Well, they're going to have teams in their division that aren't going to win that many games. But the Browns are not like one of those awful teams that's easy to play. I would say the same about the Bengals, right? Because at any moment, they just got some good players. I know Hendrickson got hurt, and who knows, I guess he could get traded. But if the Bengals and the Browns are the worst 2 teams in your division, both teams probably going to win a combined like 10 games, they are just not you're not playing the Jets, right? That's right. Just hard, especially the Browns. That is physically taxing. And they played the Ravens twice in the last month and a half. They could be a little healthier by then. It's not going to be, you saw today. The Ravens have a lot of pride as an organization, even if they're playing random guys. I thought the whole time, everyone thinks the Rams are going to kill these guys.
No,
they'll probably win, but they're going to have some dignity as an organization here. That even if we're going to win 4 games, we're going to do it with our head held high. This is a pretty prideful division. Tomlin, I forget who was calling the game, but they basically said Mike Tomlin tried to tell his rookies, don't get fooled by the records in this division. These interdivision games, these 6 of them, are worse. So, and the more Aaron plays in these, especially against the Ravens, they're going to hit him. They'll find a way. And it's just, can he maintain? Because if he's healthy, I will say this, they do have a chance to compete in a playoff game. I think the AFC is pretty wide open. You got Bo Nix, 3 completions. The Chargers have a bunch of injuries. It's the Jags still got Trevor Lawrence as their quarterback. I think you saw the Colts today. They're not a perfect team by any means. There are going to be some playoff teams in the AFC that aren't exactly 2 years ago Ravens, some of these Bills teams in the past, and some of the prime Chiefs teams. So it's not saying they're going to be in the AFC Championship game, but it's definitely more wide open than I think we imagined when the season started.
All right, I want to talk Chargers, who end a 2-game losing streak. Chargers 29, Dolphins 27. So there was, listen, the Miami Dolphins could have drafted Herbert, and they drafted Tua. So I was a bigger fan than Herbert out of college than Tua, but not a lot of GMs. There were a lot of GMs that liked Tua. Chris Greer, who has been a GM for 10 years, and not a lot of Pro Bowlers. They've bad O-line, gave Tua an extension. It wouldn't have been my call, but Tua had 3 picks today, and Herbert put on a show, 29-38. No Quentin Johnson, 4 backups on the offensive line. There was a play at the end of the game. It's unbelievable. Herbert is just getting attacked. He leads the NFL in getting hit since he was drafted. I think he's been hit more than any quarterback in the league. So he's got backups everywhere. No Quentin Johnson. It's Ladd McConkey and a number 3 running back, and some backups, 4 backups on the offensive line. So as they trail late, the Dolphins score. Here they come back. It looked like the Dolphins were going to win. Herbert breaks a tackle from a defensive lineman. And this is why traits, you're a former NFL scout, this is why traits matter. Tua doesn't escape that. Brock Purdy doesn't escape that. It's just one of those things that smaller quarterbacks, Kyler Murray doesn't escape it. Herbert at 6'5.5", 235 and strong, bounces off a defensive tackle, escapes, somehow moving to his left, gets Ladd McConkey, who flies down the sideline. They ultimately win it with a field goal. And my takeaway in that game is it highlights the Miami problem. When you draft Tua, who's a smaller quarterback and not as athletic as Herbert, and again, Chris Greer wasn't alone. There were people that loved Tua. I look at Mike McDaniel. Tua said after the game, people are missing meetings. People are late. It's like, holy crap, Tua's calling out Mike McDaniel. But I thought this was, overall, this really puts a ribbon on the Dolphins. When you watched Herbert carry, only San Francisco's more banged up. When you watch Herbert carry a completely depleted roster on the road from behind to win over Tua, who's home, who's comfortable, who's got most of his weapons, to me it was like, this is the definition of why the Dolphins are the Dolphins.
Yeah, I thought the Herbert play was the play of the day. Given that the injuries, that felt like they were going to lose the game. The defense kind of gave it up at the end. Waller's wide open in the corner of the end zone for Tua to throw him a little lollipop, and then he breaks that tackle sack for the throw, and then McConkey. How good have those two guys been since they've linked up?
Jesus.
Holy moly. McConkey he's like a Wes Welker meets Edelman. He's
but faster.
Herbert, there was I understand what Tua's saying, and we've known about the dysfunction in Miami now for a while. It's pretty embarrassing. But I also think, like, Tua, you threw a pick. You guys were up 16-13 and threw a pick over the middle of the field. And that pick doesn't get thrown if you're Justin Herbert because he has a much stronger arm. Well, the ball, when you have a weaker arm, like Phillip Rivers threw a lot of picks in his career, it's an easier ball to catch. So if his timing's a little off, Peyton Manning's ball, if he's a little late, is much more pickable than Cam Newton throwing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And you just watch Tua's ball, it kind of floats. And the Charger defender was able to jump right in front of the route. The guy was open, but it's when we talk about arm strength, obviously that doesn't determine if you're going to be a great player or not. Peyton had an average arm at best. But Tua is nowhere near the guys with average arms that were great players and makes mistakes constantly. And that was 16-13, and then boom, 3 plays later, the Chargers are up 23-13. And I just think that, Tua's a pretty average player. Which, listen, relative to the league, he's still better than a lot of guys, but he is not talented enough. We talk about Baker, Cleveland, can't overcome it. Mac Jones with Belichick and that disaster the last couple of years, can't overcome it. Tua, this Miami thing, no chance. You put Tua on, you just gave him to Kevin O'Connell right now, I bet he'd look a lot better, right? And, Kevin O'Connell said this over the offseason. Most teams fail quarterbacks. We know Tua's very limited. We've known Jared Goff's been limited since he was playing at Cal. Can't move. Guess what the Lions don't ask him to do? Move. Guess what they ask him to do? Get rid of the ball fast. I think sometimes Mike McDaniels is asking Tua like these deep dropbacks, push the ball down the field. Guys, he has an average arm. And part of it now he has to carry the team, but they have all these little tiny receivers, even when Tyreek was there. It's like, I don't know if I would have built a team that way, first off. And now it's like Waddle's an excellent player and made an awesome catch today down the sideline, but like, I would try to get bigger body. Well, listen, I don't know if it's going to work in Carolina or not, but I do understand the logic of we need to get this big body guy for a little quarterback. McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. Why? Because it's harder for him to see, gives him a better catching radius. Tua's throwing to tiny little guys, and he's a tiny little quarterback. Well, Herbert can see the tiny little receiver, or Brady can see they're 6'5". It's the opposite with Tua.
Yeah.
It's just a math equation. And then when you factor in his arms weak, and I give him, like, I actually think too, he's earned my respect of like being mentally tough and, he battles through, like he doesn't tap out. He still runs around when he's got a million concussions, but the organization's an embarrassment. I just think that the Tua thing, it's more like he turns the ball over a lot and he's got issues, but the whole organization around him is just, it's pretty low level.
If you had Tua as a quarterback, you'd need a good backup quarterback. They've never had that. And you need a good offensive line. It's stunk since he's been there. They've had good defensive fronts. They don't know what they're doing. Like I think about this all the time. When I started the volume, when you start a company, you have to have an identity. What are we? What aren't we? Let's stop chasing this. We're not this. We are this. If Tua is your quarterback, you have to have a good backup. You also have to have good protection, good pass pro. They've never done a good job with that. So there's two quarterbacks that won today, Baker Mayfield and Justin Herbert, who had no business winning. Both are on the road. Both missing multiple starters, star players, Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, Quentin Johnson, or Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Abuka, Baker Mayfield, and Justin Herbert. If you wondered what the difference between the haves and the have-not quarterbacks in this league, Herbert and Baker on the road win games with almost 40% of their starters missing. And I thought when you watched Herbert juxtaposed with Tua today, Tua's throwing pick after pick, and guys are bouncing off Herbert. It's like, folks, that's a guy that will never pull a team. Herbert and Baker are pulling. They're not trailers. They're tractors. They are pulling offenses.
But Mike McDaniel said last year that players, that the fine system didn't work to team meetings, right? He couldn't get guys to show up on. Well, Tua, you think people that they can't find you are going to show up to players-only meetings? Like that's the culture's already been established. Nothing matters, right? The standard doesn't exist. And this is what happens when you have a guy that no one respects and you bring him back. And listen, that's not a shot at Mike. It's just clearly the players do not view him like an authority figure. And you can be a nice guy, right? Andy Reid is good friends and has close relationships with his players. They also view him as an authority figure of if he says something is at 8 o'clock, there is a level of respect to show up at 7:55. No one's asking you to be Tom Coughlin and be 20 minutes early or you're late. But when a coach says, it's just basic business, right? Everyone's there. We're making time. Our time is valuable. We've never had less time with all these rules. Show up. And they weren't showing up to the team meetings last year when why do you think Vic Fangio was like, I want out of this mess?
Yeah, Vic Fangio said, get me out of here. It's nonsense.
Yeah. Howie, come throw me a lifeline. And I think Stephen Ross, like, I don't even want to deal with this. Go. This is, but that was a reflection of Mike and the organization. And in fairness to Mike, this had been going on even with Flores. No one's ever on the same page in this team.
Let me throw this at you. I thought about this today. Most of the great culture creators, Vrabel, Mike Tomlin, Dan Campbell, I would say Sean McVay feels bigger than he is.
Yeah,
he's an alpha. There's a physical component to them. And you could say, what about Belichick? Brady set the culture. Let's be honest about it. Like Brady ran that locker room. Like players were intimidated. Brady outworked every player. He was a legend. He was the GOAT. Brady set that culture as much as Belichick. Mike McDaniel, if you walked into Google, looks like some guy that would be and I'm not trying to be mean-spirited, but you're walking up in front of 6'7", 325-pound alphas. There is you cannot discredit the value. Have you ever stood next to Dan Campbell or Mike Vrabel? These are huge men. And Mike Tomlin's an intimidating man. So you either have to be intimidating in terms of volume or intensity. Sean Payton's intimidating. Like when you're around him, Sean's expertise and his intelligence. Andy Reid, success, volume. Like Andy's he's a yeller. Or there's the physical component. I said this when he first got hired. He didn't look like a guy that was going to walk up in front of a room and command respect from a bunch of 55 guys that average 6'4", 220.
No one thinks that, especially if you go back to I was watching early this morning and they were doing something on Brian Schottenheimer and they were talking a lot about Marty, or Bill Parcells or some of those guys, Jimmy Johnson. Obviously these guys, if they got into a physical altercation with a player, are going to lose. But I bet if you asked a lot of those players, they'd say, I never knew when the guy might actually snap on me. And again, I knew I could beat the guy up, but he had an intimidation factor. You go back, you watch some of those Cowboy practices. Jimmy's 50 years old screaming at Charles Haley. I grew up on, Bill Walsh, retired George Seifert. He was terrifying. I was like, this guy is just, no one messed with him. And I think there's an element of that. Obviously, Mike McDaniel is never going to have to fight any of these guys. but they look at him like, in what world would you wouldn't take that guy seriously if he was your friend's dad and he got mad at you over at his house playing video games if you were a 15-year-old kid. So
I mean, let's be honest. There is.
It's football, not softball. I mean, it's part of the deal.
It's just like saying, taller people make more money according to every study.
For sure.
If you saying the physical component in life doesn't matter is laughable. If you're saying it doesn't, you're probably 5'5". It does. Taller, better looking people, more intimidating people. I mean, there's just something that John Taffer, bar rescue. Well, he's like 6'5" and screams. It's intimidating for bar owners, right? Yeah. Gordon Ramsay in a kitchen. It's intimidating. He's smart and he's loud and he's successful. It matters. Okay, I want to talk a couple more games here before we get into James Franklin, who got fired at Penn State. Oh, Carolina beats Dallas 30-27. Two things to say about Dallas. First of all, Dak Prescott in his last 3 games has 10 touchdowns and no picks. They can only win one way. It's a track meet. They got their defense. Bryce Young ate it up. Secondly, George Pickens, for all the criticism the Cowboys get, I mean, he's got 6 touchdowns in 5 games. He has been a steal as a third rounder. He has been unbelievable. Today, he was incredible. So we can roll our eyes at the Cowboys, but Pickens has been great. Dak has been sensational. But I was watching Bryce Young today, John, and it really came to me, is that Carolina dominated first downs, like almost doubled the Cowboys. And Rico Dowdle had 183 yards, over 6 yards a carry. Is that, and I said this when they traded Micah, it was going to look bad this year. But 2 first-round picks, Dak playing this well, go get an edge rusher and go get a number 2 receiver, and you're going to be fine. In this league, you can get better really, really fast. Plus, they're going to have free agent money and cap room next year. But I watched Bryce Young, and my takeaway, and I know nobody cares about Carolina, but my takeaway is Bryce Young can look pretty darn good against a bad defense. When I've seen him against good pass rushes, he's totally engulfed. But about half the league doesn't have a pass rush. Most of the league isn't Denver, right? They're not Denver. They're not the Rams. So I watched Bryce Young and I'm like, do you think Bryce Young gets an extension? Because my take is he's middle of the pack. He may be the 17th best quarterback, but against average defenses, and that coach, he's capable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably put him in the Tua category where he probably will, and everyone will fall out of their chair when he gets $150 million. Now, it has to keep going well, but like you said, the Saints are in their division. You watch them, their defense is horrendous. Tampa just has to blitz all the time. I mean, they have a bunch of injuries and older players. And, Atlanta, in theory, has good defense. I mean, we'll see how it translates over. But they're not exactly playing the 85 Bears on a weekly basis. Now, again, I would probably rather have Tua than Bryce, but, I mean, today, the thing with the Cowboys, Dowdle had 183 yards. His long run was 15, Colin. I would bet in the history of 180-yard rushing attacks, on average, the long run in a game for a running back would be like 40-plus yards. Because if you ran for 130 yards, like you're probably going to have a couple 20-yard runs.
He had 30 carries. That's what they did in the 70s.
He also had a huge game. I think he had 4 catches for 56 yards. I mean, I think he has like 500 yards from scrimmage these last couple. He's dominating. The Cowboys' defense is horrendous. It shows you how bad the Jets are because they made the Jets, their defense actually looked pretty good against them last week. This game, my favorite bet on the board besides Seattle, who won outright, was the over in this game. Started a little slow, but as the game went on, I mean, these two defenses are horrendous. They really are. Dallas is probably going to have to feel good. If you go, Dallas wants to win a game, I think they have to be above 30. I don't think they have any chance to win a game against a competent team, not the Jets, if they're in even in the high 20s. I think they got, I mean, obviously they lost today 30-27, but I would say on average, their scoring defense when the season ends, I bet it's 28, 29. It's gonna be one of the worst in the league, if not the worst.
Yeah, Dallas's defense is a quarterback stimulus package.
Big time.
Everybody looks good. No, it's funny because I was watching this today, and Rico Dowdle had 30 carries. I mean, that's what Jim Brown was doing. Like now you wouldn't even think 20 is like, 20 is almost inappropriate. But I think it does go to show that I think people are terrified of driving to the stadium and being bad at quarterback. Like when today, Cleveland. That's why Cincinnati's like, let's just get Joe Flacco. We won't be terrible at quarterback. We'll be okay. And they were okay. He just threw to Jamar Chase over and over and over on the big drives, which is smart. Joe Flacco's smart. But I think the league is terrified of being horrible at quarterback, and that's why Brock Purdy or a Bryce Young is one gets paid. I think Bryce will get paid. And I will say this, as Carolina won, Dak, through all of this, he's just putting up unbelievable numbers. He first of all, the surgery, he hasn't moved this well in 6 years. He's moving well. It really goes to show you, we don't think it's an elite head coach. They don't have a number one receiver or tight end. The O-line is being remade. John, in this league, if you have an A quarterback, A- or B++, you can win every Sunday. And that's with Dak Prescott. I mean, they're if CeeDee Lamb makes a catch against Philadelphia, they win that game. Remember the opener?
Yeah.
So it's like I look at Dallas and I'm like, they're not a good team, but they're fun to watch. And Dak is, I mean, there's 15 quarterbacks in this league that can spin it, and he is one of them.
I'll push back a little on the head coach. Now, we're not really judging him on timeouts, and his defense isn't good, so even the aggregate of the team. But he is the play caller, and they have been elite on offense. And they lost CeeDee Lamb early in the season, and they have not skipped a beat. So I would say most people would have been like, Brian Schottenheimer is going to call your plays? Let's just say that. Let's say they had hired Colin Cowherd to be the head coach, but Schottenheimer was his play caller as the OC. We're like, you could do better than that. Like, he's been pretty awesome at that. So I will give him that. And part of it's going to be, because I'm thinking today, they do get 2 first-round picks, and losing this game isn't the end of the world for them if they're picking.
That's right.
You'd rather pick 10th than 20th. And, the Packers probably going to end, that pick's going to be in the 20s, but you're going to have 2 picks, pick a couple guys on defense. Dak, I just looked, 32 years old. So the way football's going now, you can't touch the quarterback. Why couldn't he have several more seasons playing at this level? He clearly has good chemistry with Brian. Maybe they re-sign with some of that extra money. George Pickens, they already got CeeDee Lamb under contract. Finally, maybe draft a running back in like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. And all of a sudden, you have more of a complete team. You get some of these defensive backs healthy over the next couple of years. They got a bunch of them under contract. They just need front 7 players. I would draft more. If you told me they used both their first-round picks this year on defensive linemen, I'd be like, smart. Right? I wouldn't even veer away from the front 7 if I were them early in the draft.
Yeah, I looked at mock drafts today, and there's a bunch of edge rushers.
Yeah.
It's a defensive line, defensive edge. It's a very good draft. Dante Moore probably has a chance to go number 1, the Oregon quarterback, although he lost this weekend, but they don't care about that. But I looked at it. It's a lot of defensive players in this year's draft. It's a very good defensive draft. And you know what? I've always been a little reticent to draft a receiver in the first round high because it's an ego position. Why feed into that? Yeah, there's a couple of first-round cornerbacks. There's a bunch of edge and defensive linemen. That's what I said about Micah. It's going to look bad for a year. It will. It's like when Shaq-Kobe trade. Shaq goes to Miami. You were going to get beaten up for 2 years. But in the end, Kobe was the better, more committed player. He was in better shape, fewer injuries. Kobe got Gasol, and the Lakers won 2 titles. Sometimes you can't worry about winning the press conference, right? Like they always say that in college football. Don't win the press conference. Get the right coach. You'll win the press conference if you hire, the coach leaves, James Franklin's fired, and then they'll hire, the interim coach because he wins some games and everybody loves it and they're happy. Well, is that the best coach? You're winning a press conference because everybody's happy. So I look at next year, 2 first round. And by the way, John, as you know, they don't need a quarterback, but 6 teams do. They could turn those 2 first-round picks into 2nd and 3rd round picks added by moving down, which they probably will do. Sports fans love a comeback, so the underdog that kind of defies the odds. So that's the story of Green River Whiskey. In 1918, their distillery burned to the ground, 40,000 barrels of bourbon gone. Most would have quit, and they rebuilt from the ground up on the original site in Owensboro, Kentucky, and today they're producing some of the great bourbons and rye whiskeys in the game. Kentucky Straight Bourbon, a wheated, foolproof rye. It's a lineup built on resilience. So if you love a good comeback in sports or in your glass, Green River's got you covered. Head on over to greenriverwhiskey.com to learn more. Try some for yourself, and always please drink responsibly.
They've also drafted a ton of offensive linemen over the last several years, so they've invested heavily in that position. You could also say, like, unless Micah was Lawrence Taylor, what difference is Micah making on this team? Like, it's not like he's turning them into some high-end defense. Their defense is atrocious. Guys are wide open constantly. They can't cover a soul. I think if you wanted to argue about it, you should have done it before the draft, and you could have gotten more. But at the end of the day, you got multiple first-round picks. You got the money. It was a little clunky the way the process played out, but the end result, I think, is probably going to work out in the Cowboys. As long, the Raiders once did this when they traded Khalil Mack. Again, that was a financial thing. They just didn't have the money to pay him. They drafted the wrong players, and that bit them in the ass. So you get these picks. If you nail, I don't know, like you said, let's say you turn 2 picks into 4 picks, right? Moving back and manipulating the draft. If you hit on 3 out of the 4 of them, it's a home run, because not only are you getting impact players, they're cheap impact players.
All right. I think both you and I loved this game. This was my second favorite bet on the board. Seattle plus 1.5. I said Friday on the Herd, Blazing 5, bet the money line. I thought Jacksonville, off an emotional win, biggest win in forever for them against Kansas City, they would come back, short rest, come back down to earth. Seattle was going to play with their hair on fire in a tougher division. They'd be more desperate. I mean, you had 10 total penalties for the Jags. In the first half, they had 6 penalties, 3 sacks allowed, 4 punts. They were just a mess. They weren't really ready to play. They hung around for a while. But, I'll say this is, a classic example is Trevor Lawrence had a 54-yard touchdown pass taken off the board because of a penalty. It's so Jacksonville. I don't know how to explain this, though. Seattle's won 9 straight road games. Now, remember, Seattle is geographically, this is why the Vancouver Grizzlies didn't work. This is why the Mariners for years haven't done well in the free agent market. It's like a lot of players don't want those long road trips. You're jammed up in the Pacific Northwest. It's inconceivable that Seattle, again, in a tough division, even Arizona is a hard place to go and win, has won 9 straight road games. They travel across the country. So let's start with that. Is that just coincidence, happenstance? I mean, some of those have been with Geno. That's a lot of road wins in a row.
They're 10-1 on the road under Mike McDonald. 10-1. That's insane. Again, they, in theory, have one of the best places to play at home. So if they can parlay, which they're going to do, because they were today, they sacked him 7 times. They were all over Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he would scramble in the pocket, and there would be another guy there. He was getting hit all day long. And their DBs hit too. I mean, you could tell a couple times Brian Thomas is like, I don't know if I want to catch this one over the middle.
Oh, you could tell his body language.
Yeah, he had that early in the season. It felt like he got over that last week, and they were talking about in the broadcast, like Liam's had some talks with him. A couple times, like, no way. I never blame a player. I wouldn't want to get taken out either. But the days of like Ronnie Lott are over. You're not going to get depleted, but still, he doesn't want to get hit. And the defense was awesome today. I mean, their physicality. When you factored in I heard, I was in the car maybe last week, and Steve Phillips, the baseball guy, the former GM, was on, and he said by far every year, Seattle, no team travels farther in baseball than Seattle, right? Their travel is consistently the longest. Think about this game for them. I mean, what's that flight? We just say naturally 5. Is that a 5.5? Is that a 6-hour flight? I mean, that's a long trip. Now, I'm with you. Tampa, the emotional win. I respect Trevor. Like, he's tougher than I think a lot of people want to give him credit for. He's actually shown the last 2 weeks, like, he's tough. Like, you can't say that he's question. Turning it down. I just don't know how good he is. Like, he's tough, and he has some physical capabilities. He can scramble around. But like, Sam, to me, this is why I love the game. I'm like, I actually think the Jacksonville's coaching staff is good. I think Liam's been impressive. Their coaching staff's good. Clearly, Seattle's got a good coaching staff. But the quarterback mismatch in this game, I think, is pretty. I mean, Sam coming into this game, objectively, based on stats, is like might have been the best quarterback in the league through the first 5 games.
Well, Jackson Smith-Njigba is a monster. Oh. He is a freaking monster. 162 yards. Sam had a throw. It'll get no play, no highlights to Cooper Kupp, and it was such a sly, clever little throw. And Cooper at this point doesn't run. But it was just like one of those, Oh, that's a pro throw. Aaron had a couple of these. Aaron Rodgers does these throws where, you throw it into the corner. If it gets picked, somebody goes 100 yards. And it was Sam threw it, and it was quick to Cooper Kupp, who doesn't separate any longer. But I think that the thing about Trevor Lawrence is why, Urban Meyer wasn't a pro coach. That's fine. Bill Belichick's not a college coach. That's fine. But why has Jacksonville always beat themselves? Why do they always have so many penalties? Why do they always have so many big plays and touchdowns called back? That's on Trevor. It's like you can't blame anybody else but Caleb Williams when the operations of the Bears offense looks clunky. Like Drake May is a freaking robot. Like he's AI. He's not doing that. In New England's a young team with a bunch of new players. They have penalties too. But Drake May's figured it out quickly. Trevor's been in this league a long time. And it's just today, 10 penalties, touchdowns called back. I just always feel like they're just never buttoned up. And I think Liam Cohen's a good coach. So I don't know. I look at Seattle as a team like Green Bay. They're young. They're not quite sure how to put people away. You're watching this game and I'm watching this game. Seattle was the better team. Oh. They could have won this thing by 4 touchdowns. Young teams struggle. How do you put teams away? They just don't quite know how to do it yet. But I'll tell you, watching Seattle and watching their road record, and remember, young players, when they do get hurt, get healthier sooner. I think Seattle blew Pittsburgh out. I think Seattle is live. I still think they can win I watched the Rams today. I think Seattle, I'm going to take Seattle to win the division.
Yeah, I did at the beginning of the year, 5-1. I'm with you. I also think, part of being one of the great prospects of all time, which I think we all agree he's not, but like what goes with that at quarterback is not just physical attributes, it's bringing everything to the table. You watch some of these highlights of Peyton Manning or Troy Aikman, these former number 1 picks, John Elway, screaming at guys, holding them. They get to act like a coach. They're the highest paid guy in the building. They're the heartbeat of the building. Everyone's looking at them. And that's just never going to be Trevor Lawrence's thing. So part of the penalties, like the coach can only yell at you so much. They literally do. Coaches yell at you constantly. But like when the quarterback holds you accountable, and I just don't think that they have that. I'm sure they respect him because back to the toughness thing, he's really proven that. I always kind of question that. He's showing that this year. But they're just they actually are a pretty talented team. But like if their most talented player, Brian Thomas, is not going to catch balls over the middle consistently. Because Trevor had a couple nice passes in big spots over the middle. They just got dropped or he didn't want to catch it. I'm like, yeah, there's just going to be something a little bit. And it goes also back to the Travis Hunter thing, very talented player. I just feel like they're a little lost with that, with him kind of going both ways. You can't just go all in with him as an offensive player, which I think is probably the right move. But yeah, I would pick the Colts to win that division right now, and I would say Seattle has a very, very good chance. They just got to be healthy. If they're fully healthy, they're going to be very tough to deal with.
By the way, I don't want to spend too much time on the Patriots 25 beating the Saints 25-19, but Drake May, they had over 300 yards, 18 of 26. They're asking him to throw it. He also had 9 scrambles. He's a hit. There is now again, he gets Mike Vrabel. They spent some money on the O and D line. But if you didn't watch this game, and it's a corner TV game, as my friend Chad Millman would say, it's that 8th box where Scott Hansen goes, here I am in the lower 8th. Drake May is a hit. I think we can safely say that Drake May is a hit.
Isn't it powerful what confidence will do for young players? Early that first game against the Raiders, I thought, I was like, whoa, something's a little off. They get a couple wins, and then you have that moment. That could be a career-changing moment. Buffalo Sunday Night Football. It's the number 1 television show in America. Everyone, you're playing the Bills that have the defending MVP, which I would imagine in Drake May's life, he's never played in an environment quite like that, right?
Yeah.
That's some of these teams in the ACC don't. NC State probably doesn't feel like that on a Saturday afternoon. To win and play that well, you saw today. Now listen, Saints got a little cowboy vibe. They are not very good on defense. They're actually a fun team to watch. They chuck it around offensively. But he looks like a dramatically more confident player. And you could argue, is that the most underrated aspect for a young quarterback? Is like, does he believe in himself? Because a lot of these guys have talent.
Well,
right?
remember,
we see guys year in, year out, but when they go into the tank, look at Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, we used to be like, guy turns the ball over all the time. I'm watching him now. He doesn't put the ball in harm's way, really.
Well, I think, remember Mike Vrabel in camp said he's just got to believe in himself. He has to realize that being a leader means being a leader every day. That was Vrabel's quote in the camp. So Vrabel was telling you he's got it in him, but he's a young guy. I always said this is hard. To walk in at 25 years old or 24. I mean, Darnold was 21 when he walked into the league in New York, and then act like a leader. It's 34-year-old men in there. You're 21. And if you have self-awareness, you don't want to be a jerk. And I do think the Baker Mayfield, kind of the component that like I believe in myself. Baker's rare. He's an outlier. Most young people come into a room and they're a little it's a little awe-inspiring. These are professional. Nobody looks like Myles Garrett in college or high school, right? Nobody else in the NFL looks like him. So I think Drake, and by the way, Mike Vrabel's intimidating. And so and in free agency, they spent $300 million. So they brought in some old dudes, like old dudes making money. And I think Drake May was like Carolina football. Mac Brown is very chill. Mac's like the most likable guy. Vrabel's a barker. Vrabel's intense. Vrabel's smart. Vrabel gets after you. So I think
same with Josh. I mean, Josh's a pretty intense guy, isn't he?
Yeah. So, and I like Josh, but he'll bark. So I think it's just kind of like, holy shit, this is a lot. But man, those last 4 games I've watched Drake May. Here's the other thing, John. When he throws well running, like when he's moving, it's no big deal. Like he doesn't lose his accuracy. A couple of these rolling left, rolling right, it doesn't affect him at all. Not that he throws better that way, but moving is irrelevant. Some guys move and their accuracy dips.
Yeah.
Not at all with Drake May, from what I can tell. Football season's here, and if you want to go to an NFL or college football game, Game Time is the place for you. The Game Time app just gives you the advantage back to you, the fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. I love it. Easy to use. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price, 100%. So they even let you preview your seat on the app. That's special. Plus fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay every time. Take the guesswork out of buying professional football tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account. If you use the code Colin, COLIN, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code COLIN, $20 off, swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today.
Well, the modern day quarterback is no longer, we've been talking about this forever, is the group of the Eli's and the Phillip Rivers and the Peyton Mannings. It is the Jackson Darts. It's the Drake Mays, and it's led by the Mahomes, Lamars. I mean, even Joe Burrow can move. And obviously Josh Allen. So you're just not getting Jared Goff coming into the NFL anymore. I mean, if you can't move, these teams aren't going to be that interested in you in college, let alone in the pros. The best players are not. I wouldn't even say Lamar's an outlier. When I say dual threat, I just mean mobility. If you don't have mobility, Mac Jones is kind of got some mobility, and he's on the low end. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say average mobility is like Baker Mayfield relative, and even he feels like lost a little weight a little quicker. But, I mean, Drake is what? 6'4", 230? I mean, he's cut from the Herbert cloth. I mean, it's ideally what you would want. And we might look back and go, God, he went 3rd overall.
Okay, let's wrap it with this. James Franklin got fired. 3-3 record. They won 13 games last year, but they had lost 3 close games in a row. You may remember last year, even though they ended up number 5 in the country, they barely beat Bowling Green. They won several close games. They lost to Notre Dame at the end in a close loss, but they won several close games last year. This year, they're losing all their close games, but it's who they're losing to. You can't lose to Northwestern. You can't lose. You can lose to Oregon, although at home, it's rough. But you can't lose to UCLA. UCLA is not a top 40 team. Although they have new coaches now, and that it looks like the head coach that left may have been getting in the way of a pretty good staff beneath him. But he's only 53, so somebody's going to hire him. The danger in doing this, because he wasn't getting blown out, he was losing close games. The danger in doing this is, what if the interim comes in, wins 5 of the next 6 weeks, And then you hire the interim because the players go into the 80s office. The players go on social media. The players are telling you they'll transfer if you don't hire the interim coach. They'll transfer. They'll go into the portal. And in small towns, like places like Penn State, they've often bowed to that. You see this all the time, John. The hit rate. Look at Michigan right now on giving the popular assistant the job. It's not very good historically. It's poor. It's about a 20% hit rate. So my take is, okay, now you've put yourself, Antonio Pierce got his job that way. The popular substitute teacher. I wouldn't have fired him, would you?
I think you had to. I think it's the first time since they've been running the numbers in 30 plus years that a team has lost to back-to-back teams being a 20 plus point favorite. I mean, the team quit on them, right? They approached the Oregon game like the Super Bowl. You know what's pretty crazy is we talk about this a lot with young quarterbacks. They basically got 2 years now to show. In college football, these buyouts, which I thought were going to be something impossible to overcome, I think there's so much money float. Didn't the Big Ten just get a $2 billion investment from venture capital or something?
Did you see online they are speculating that Adidas bought out James Franklin?
Who starts next year, because I Googled it immediately, 10 years, $300 million. So if I'm Adidas and I'm in for 10 years, $300 million, right, for Penn State athletics, obviously that's Penn State football and everything else gets to piggyback off that. I need them to be really good. And I'm kind of a junkie, so I just YouTubed last night some Penn State like local podcasts. They have been losing a couple massive recruits the last couple weeks. A lot of people think James Franklin, especially after the UCLA game, borderline just tapped out. It doesn't matter because he's got $50 million even if he's fired. So they almost didn't have a choice. This is not the AD that gave him that big extension. That was Sandy Barber, former Cal AD, who's just, I mean, Jimmy Sexton. Has there ever been a negotiation mismatch quite like Jimmy Sexton? You can say the ADs, but the ADs all answer to the presidents and the provosts, right. And it's academia versus Jimmy Sexton, and he is destroying them. It has been all these guys getting fired, and when Mike Norvell gets fired, and when the dude at Florida, they're all his clients. He's owning them, and I just think James Franklin, they didn't have a choice. I also think James Franklin, he's going to all of a sudden be the Florida State head coach or the Auburn head coach. He is by far one of the best candidates out there. I have no problem doing it. I also just wonder, this is not 2015 where you go, Kurt Cignetti 100% leaving Indiana. His team.
I don't think he leaves Indiana.
Well, they got a bunch of money. He's making $8 million a year. He clearly can buy players. So it's like he would have had to leave 10, 7, 8 pre-NIL. Does he need to now?
I don't think he does. No,
so
I mean, also, Indiana's his baby. I mean, it's not Joe Paterno, Penn State. It's his baby. It's a basketball school. If I'm Kurt Cignetti, $8 million. By the way, they are so appreciative. Part of college football is being appreciated. Like Oregon's always good, but people were frustrated with Mario Cristobal. Couldn't win big road games. Oregon fans don't expect you to win national titles, but you got to get up to 10 wins because they know Phil Knight's money and they have previous success doing that. But you don't have to be as, that's right. That's right. And so Penn State, I do think Penn State kind of views themselves at a level they're not quite. It's rural. It's not the easiest place to recruit. It's not nearly as glamorous as Columbus or Ann Arbor or USC in Los Angeles. It's not as cool as Oregon. You lose cell phone coverage out there by the Nittany Lions Inn. So, and I'm not knocking it, but it's like James Franklin. I don't think Penn State's a top 7 program, and I think they're losing. I think Oregon is. I think Michigan is. I think Ohio State is. I think Notre Dame is. Those are top 7, 8, 9 programs. I think Penn State's on the outside of that. They view themselves as that. And I think you're probably right. I think he probably tapped out. And also, I think 10 to 12 years coaching these powerhouses, if you don't win a national championship, I mean, God, Calipari won at Kentucky, and they ran him out. It's hard. Mark Few told me this when he was at Gonzaga. He goes, I can recruit nothing but 3-star guys if I wanted to. He goes, I could win at UCLA at the level I'm winning at Gonzaga, but I would get crushed if I was recruiting only 3-star guys. Like, you go to these blue blood programs, People follow that. Fans are on your ass. So Kurt Cignetti, nobody's sitting around going, get 5-star guys. It's his baby. Also, when you're at Indiana, I mean, I think the portal's changed everything, John. I think Indiana looks the part.
Well, he wouldn't even have been able to do what he's doing if it wasn't for the portal because he landed this Mendoza kid from Cal. He would have had to just recruit either a junior college quarterback or recruit a kid. You literally couldn't have done this 5 years ago. Now you can turn – this is why Belichick, if he does return, is going to be heavily under the microscope. You can turn this thing around immediately.
Yeah.
Now, you don't – he's doing it like the highest level. He's going to go to the playoffs probably back-to-back years. But you could win 8-9 games. You can go from 2 to 3 wins to 8-9 wins really fast. And that wasn't possible, I think, unless you were at like Ohio State or something, ever at one of these random schools. But I think Penn State goes, we were paying, obviously the head coach, they were paying their coordinators. Their defensive coordinator, highest paid coordinator in the league. Their offensive coordinator, the guy from Kansas, Kolnecki, makes a ton. Their roster, they had a bunch of guys return. You're cutting, this is why I was kind of, give him credit. Arch Manning played his best game by far on Saturday against Oklahoma. Stats don't reflect it. He was good relative to the way he'd been playing. But I was like, these boosters and whoever's paying all this money is not going to keep the money flowing if you do not win. You will get cut off. Now, I actually kind of believe the Adidas thing. Even if you were at USC or Notre Dame, who could just find $50 million? Like, even if you got 5 people, that means $10 million each. I mean, unless they're Bezos or whatever, you could be worth a couple $100 million. $5 million or $10 million. We're talking, that's liquid cash. I mean, this is a lot of money we're talking. And that's just for the head coach. That's not going to count the staff when you blow them out. All the NIL money you're paying the players. This is a lot more complicated now with the revenue streams that you need to fund football. Like, you know all these basketball coaches. Basketball is actually much easier to operate economically because I just need, $5 or $6 million if I want to land 3 or 4 good guys. And then I can get some transfer portal guys from, mid-major schools that cost. But my roster, I'm only going to play 7, 8 guys. In college football, it's like I got multiple running backs. I got multiple wide receivers. I need some D linemen. I also got to pay some of these, especially at a place like Penn State. Like, your high school recruits cost money now, let alone the returners. So, and then let alone the coaches. Has there ever been a business? I mean, obviously, like being a CEO on Wall Street, but these guys, Jimbo Fisher getting paid $77 million not to work. They say the American dream.
Wow.
I mean, how many human beings have ever been these guys? I mean, at the end of the day, their job, they have a whistle around their neck. I mean, what an incredible time to be a football coach right now.
Yeah, James Franklin's a good-looking guy with high energy. I think he'll go into broadcasting and probably be a great fit. He's kind of a magnetic guy. Again, I understand firing him. I think it's really dangerous to fire a coach this early. They've got some better personnel than about 90% of the teams that are playing. Good luck if they go on a winning streak because the interim coach is the substitute teacher. They're the most popular. Also, let's throw this in. USC hammered Michigan 31-13. Didn't feel that close. The truth was USC played physical football. I don't know if Michigan has the right coach. Underwood and Marsh, that receiver, are freaking great talents. But USC actually stepped up. Now, they're an 8.5-point dog at Notre Dame next week, and I don't think they can beat Notre Dame. I don't think it's a great matchup. Notre Dame's quarterback's really good. I think he'll just pick them apart. They did get their best player back on the back end of their defense, Kamari Ramsey. So I don't think USC is going to beat Notre Dame or Oregon on the road. I don't think they're good enough to do that. But I thought it was a pretty substantial win because the knock has been Lincoln Riley's teams are soft. And I thought in the trenches, I mean, God, with King Miller, a walk-on freshman running back, huge holes. I thought it was
he looked like Darnold today. I mean, he was killing them.
I think it meant something to Lincoln Riley. It was a very, it looked like old USC. The lights, the crowd. You saw it just looked big. The night stuff. But I thought it was big I said this on Friday, this was not just a typical USC game. They had to win. I thought they would win. I didn't think it would be that dominating. What was your takeaway?
I looked at the board early Saturday morning, and I thought, I don't think there's any individual head coach. It turned out it was Franklin, but I assumed they would win that game, that had more pressure on him yesterday than Lincoln Riley. I thought it was like a fork in the road moment for his program. He can't. because he would have been 0-2. He just would have lost to Illinois and lost to Michigan. And like you said, they got hard games coming up. It's like you got to be able to beat. This is not Jim Harbaugh, J.J. McCarthy, and the league. You got to beat Sharon Moore and a rookie quarterback or freshman quarterback. And not only beat him, like you said, 31-13. That felt like 45-7.
It wasn't.
He threw the pick in the red zone at the end of the first half.
Jaden Mayava. Yeah,
they look offensively for the first time, and it was. I've watched, I would say, 50 to 75% of some of their games. I hadn't watched start to finish every snap. That felt a little Oklahoma-y offensively. I mean, that receiver they have, Lemon, the number 6, is elite. I mean, he is looks like, I don't know, Amon-Ra St. Brown or something. I mean, he's a dominant player. Their running game was awesome, and that was a huge part of Lincoln Riley's thing back with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and was running the ball. So if you can run the ball and you got NFL wide receivers, he can light you up.
They were down to their third running back. That's what's impressive. That's a walk-on. They didn't have Jordan. They didn't have Sanders. They didn't have their top 2 running backs. Now they used Jackson, who was a third or a fourth stringer. He actually, I thought, as a freshman last year, he's kind of a different body composition. He's a big, strong kid. I wish they'd play him more, but they didn't have their stars in the backfield, and they're a run-first team.
I give them a fighting chance against Notre Dame. Obviously they have no chance to win a lower scoring, tough it out game. They would have to get a little bit of a shootout and try to win 30-25 or something. But I was blown away by the efficiency on their offense. Now, Wink's kind of a feast or famine defensive coordinator. Yeah. I mean, he's blitzing every single play. But I thought Lincoln, that was the moment where Lincoln versus Wink Martindale looked like JV versus varsity. That was a pretty special offensive performance.
I will say this.
Your whole thing about the Big Ten and the conference realignment, it's hard to watch that game and not go, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a Pac-12 guy, but, I'm sorry, watching Oregon, Penn State, and watching USC, Michigan, folks, it's worth it. I mean, it's just worth it. It's nothing against Cal, against Arizona, but it was college football is regional to begin with. Pac-12 felt super regional. And it was just like, I was done with it. I had told friends 5 years ago, USC wants to get out of the conference. I mean, there were companies, I don't even know if it was Amazon or some company went to USC and offered to just pay for their games. I know Fox was interested years ago in doing it because they were getting frustrated with the Pac-12 and the leadership at the time. So like
NBC does for Notre Dame, just give them an exclusive deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak, because I don't have all the information. But I went to Larry Jones, a former exec, one time at Fox, and I said, "Have you ever considered just for the night programming on Saturday night, just buy USC's games?" And he wouldn't tell me if he was doing it or not. He smiled, kind of a sly smile. So I thought, hey, he's a smart guy. I know Larry very well. But it's one of those things. They were complaining for years. Like, why are we treated no better than Washington State and Oregon State? What are we doing here? Like, we're the LA market. We don't get treated. I mean, Alabama and Saban run the SEC, and there's other, LSU and Georgia and Tennessee and Florida. There's big boy football everywhere. So I understand people that love tradition. They're outraged about the Live Tour. I get it. I'm not that guy, but it's like baseball. I'm sorry, but the Mariners-Tigers played 15, and the game would have been 7 hours years ago. But with the pitch clock, you can sit and watch 15 innings of baseball, and it's pretty compelling. It moves pretty quickly. So I don't know. I just thought it was a huge win. Here's the thing about Lincoln Riley. 2 things. They beat LSU, Texas A&M last year, and should have beaten Penn State. And now they've beaten Michigan. So, he's beating some of the big teams. You can say, well, LSU and Texas A&M, listen, they're on the schedule. They're well-funded programs. I don't think they can win over Oregon or at Autzen. Oregon's a bad matchup. I don't think Notre Dame, teams with great quarterbacks will give them trouble. You can pick them apart. But the second thing about him is you can't watch USC football and not see the coaching. Jaden Mayava was at UNLV. I watched Jaden Mayava play because I used to go to every UNLV football game when I was a sportscaster in Vegas, so I kind of follow it. Jaden Mayava was not an NFL prospect. I saw a mock draft today. They have him going in the first. That's a product of Lincoln Riley. That kid was so reckless and sloppy last year. That pick he had against Michigan was his first really bad pick of the year. He did that regularly last year. He had a couple of them against Notre Dame. So when you watch USC's offense, you don't have to like their toughness or their culture. Lincoln Riley's a really smart offensive coach. They squeeze every ounce out of their talent. They don't have a lot of 5-star guys, John. Lemon's a really high-end receiver. They got a lot of 3-star, 4-star guys. The left tackle they flipped from Notre Dame, but this is not Justin Tunu, the right tackle, Raymond, the left guard. These are 3-star recruits. They're not getting a lot of love. So the guy can coach. Can he build a culture? I don't know.
I'd say this: he wins this weekend, you can drop the Jim Mora playoffs because they'd have a good shot. I mean, they would start feeling like a serious playoff team.
All right, for Hard Rock Bet, John, I went 4-0 in my Blazing 5. I like Washington minus 4.5 against Chicago. Number one, Chicago has not been a good road team for years. Washington, if you watch the second half against the Chargers, Jaden Daniels looked like last year's Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin appears to be healthy. I think Washington right now is a better operation. Now, Chicago was off last week. That can certainly help with your first series or two. But the Bears have been good on their first series or two. I don't expect that to. That's not my issue about Chicago. It's the basic operation when you get off script. I don't think extra time necessarily helps. You can only put so many plays on script. So I like Washington at home in this spot. I think it's going to be a wild, loud environment. That may not matter in baseball. I think it matters a lot in the NFL. When you're a young quarterback and a young team going on the road, I like Washington to win and cover.
I'm going to take the Bears in the points because I think anytime that you have a young quarterback and a first-time head coach, they can use that dead time to kind of throw away some stuff that's not working. So I'm with you. They have looked good coming out the game. That doesn't change. But I think a huge part of like Andy Reid or Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, these guys that have a lot of success off the bye week, is because they can simplify stuff. They go, this isn't working. We keep doing throw it away, throw it in the garbage. And listen, if we believe Ben Johnson is the $13 million coach and this offensive genius and just this high-level guy, I think that they look a little more buttoned up. Because one knock on them would be even remove Caleb. It's like, they've a lot of penalties, a lot of stuff going on. You have the bye week, you take a deep breath, and you just get rid of some of the complicated stuff that some of these young coaches like throwing at you. So I like the Bears in the points, especially because this has got to be a little, the Hail Mary game. They had to be talking about this for the last 2 weeks, that a lot of those guys that he's going to roll out on Monday night were a part of that. I mean, that's one of the worst losses you'll ever see.